This is the deep dive for the designer screen in SimpleSet. The designer screen is where you spend 90% of your time in the program and is also where you land when you first log into the software. This video assumes that you've seen SimpleSet before, and I won't be following a specific workflow. I'm going to be going through each area of the window, what you can do there, and a few tips for how you can maximize your abilities in those areas. To start, when we first log in, we land on the designer option up top here, and the areas that you see are the category tree to the left, the main database of exercises, which contains the exercises that are provided with SimpleSet out of the box, any custom exercises that you or other clinicians may have created at your clinic, as well as a starred tab, which acts like a bookmarking area that lets you bookmark certain exercises that you want to come back to. You also have the ability to use the working area over to the right here, which we will see has more than one purpose. Now, the first thing I want to highlight is your category tree on the left may or may not be visible, depending on if you've hit the X here. If I hit this, we see that it disappears, but I can always get it back by clicking on categories. That brings it back. Now, to use the category tree, what you can do is start by searching the various areas here depending on what you're looking for. Eventually you'll get used to some of the exercises that are in SimpleSet, and you'll be able to use the search field, which we'll see soon. But if we, for example, click orthopedic and let's do range of motion, you notice things change. Then let's go down to ankle. Here's all of the exercises that have to do with the ankle. Now, once I'm familiar with the software, I actually can search based on keywords. So of course I do ankle, and let's say that I do alphabet. You notice that it's starting to narrow down as I'm typing. Then I can find which one I want. We've got a few options here. That's what you can do for the category tree. You notice that we've got a variety of options here. Then we have custom. Custom here is the same as custom up here. This is where you will find any exercises that you have customized. And starred, again, is the same as starred up here. And this shows you any exercises that you have used the star icon to star. Now, one useful thing to know is any exercise that can be found under the SimpleSet tab cannot be permanently modified. What happens is if you click on the shoulders ABCs, it opens up the attributes of the exercise. You can then do things like add the sets, reps, load, and so forth. We have options with the images. And for example, if I click on an image, I have the ability to do some markup where I can put a straight line helping to indicate that you want to make sure your back is nice and straight, and a straight line here indicating that you want your arms straight out. If I save that, it will permanently save those edits on here. And once that's finished processing, I close that. Now you notice there is no save option. Instead, we have save to custom. So if I click save to custom, you're about to create a copy of a SimpleSet exercise. The copy will be saved in your custom tab, meaning this tab up here. Sounds good. You notice this reverts back to everything as is. That's because, again, this cannot be permanently modified. However, I will find that exercise in here, which we'll see pretty soon. One final thing I want to mention is you do actually have the ability to completely modify the text in the description here as well as the name of the exercise. Now, if we come over to the custom tab, we see our shoulder ABCs, and here, if I want, I can just add the word modified. Now, of course, you can put whatever you want here. I typically recommend that you find something that's going to accurately represent what that exercise is. This could be something as simple as your initials, or maybe if you've modified it in a specific way to, target certain muscle groups, or who knows. You could put something in the name to indicate as such. That's going to make it easier for you to use it at a later date. Now, that's your custom exercises. I can come in here and I can make any further modifications. Now you notice we do have a save button. This will save any changes that I make. Useful also to note, in the custom area, we have My Folders. Test folder is a folder that I created underneath my folder. You can create other custom folders underneath here. So for example, let's say I want to have my shoulder exercises in their own separate folder underneath my folders. Now, my folders is an area that only you can see the exercises in. Other clinicians at the clinic will not be able to see it. Down here under Shire Healthy Living, however, we have some subfolders as well. We have a shoulder exercises. This would be exercises that anybody at the clinic can see. Now, currently there is none in here, but if I click on the ankle, we do have some exercises here. Now, these don't necessarily reflect ankle exercises. These are just samples that I dragged in here to illustrate how it was used. So, to note, anything in the shared folder, if you make a change, that change is permanent for everybody that can see that exercise. So all other clinicians will see that. But what I recommend is if you're making a change that is not something that everybody's going to need, you're going to want to right click on the exercise, duplicate selected, looks good. We now have a secondary one here. If I click on that, I want to, again, I can throw my initials on the end so that we know this is one that I modified. I can then come in here and, do whatever is necessary in this. Now, of course, with this being the nature of the exercise that this is, it doesn't make sense. So activities of daily living, bathing, dressing, transferring, whatever. So that's not something we need these for. But if it was something like shoulder flexion, then we could put some sets and reps and so forth in there. So we now have explored the simple set database of exercises, the custom exercises, and underneath custom, we've looked at the ones that are only seen by you as the user when you're logged in, as well as the ones that everybody at the clinic can see. If I click on the star, we see all of these have the star highlighted, and all that means is, this one is actually a custom exercise, where this one is one of the ones that you find under the Simple Set tab. So if I make any changes here, I would have to save to a new custom exercise. That gives you an idea of this area. Moving on, we've got the working area. Now you're going to do a lot of work in this area. Most of the work you're going to do to send to your patients will happen here. For example, if I want to use one of the already available templates that SimpleSet offers, I can click Open Template. I get the same abilities to search. If I go under SimpleSet, these are the templates that SimpleSet provides. Now this is different than the database of exercises. Each one of these is a set of exercises that has been curated by our in-house physiotherapists, and all of the images that you see here were actually filmed in-house as well, taken and filmed as far as videos go. So everything that you see here was overseen by a physiotherapist, developed by a physiotherapist. When the actual images and videos were taken, a physiotherapist was present in making sure that everything was done correctly. Now, to give you an idea, anatomical regions, ankle and foot, we see all of our ankle and foot related exercise sets. So let's say that I want to take the ankle sprain week 1. It opens that up. I'm going to close parameters for now. We're going to look at that soon. But here we've got ankle sprain week 1. When I'm creating a new custom exercise set, the first thing I want to do is come in here and give it a name. That way it's not going to get confused later on with another exercise. So that's now ankle sprain week 1, SD modified. From here, I can come down, I can change the name of the exercise here to also include the SD modified or not. I can change the description of the exercise set here. I can add to this, I can rename it. This gives you the ability to have it reflect your own teaching style. I also have the option to take these existing exercises. I can remove, let's say that I don't usually recommend a partial squat. I can remove that exercise from this set. I can then come over to the simple set tab here. I can start searching for ankle alphabet, and I can drag and drop that. I can then move these exercises around if I want to show them in a particular order. I also have the ability to add a divider. Let's say that I want to emphasize a certain subset of these are done in the morning, and then a certain subset are done in the afternoon. And I can add more than one of these if I want. But other than that, I do also have the ability to add education. Education will show up at the top here. We already have the ankle sprain FAQ and the ankle anatomy. If I click on education, we have a simple set provided group of education, but under custom, I have ankle alphabet. The education area is something we're going to go into in a later video. Let's say that I attach that. The ankle alphabet now shows, and we see that this is actually a PDF. If I click on that, it will open that up in another window. But what that will do is it will make that, that'll print out in any exercises that you send, or of course it'll be included when you send it to the customer or to the client via email or whatever it might be. A couple other options here that we won't go into too much. You can use this to manually add an exercise, but again, you're probably going to be searching over here and dragging and dropping. Divider we talked about. Cover is this area right here. So you can add a cover if there is not one already existing, but that's what you see here. You get a title field and a description. So it just allows you to add more flavor text to the new exercise that you're creating. Duplicate allows you to duplicate just like you saw me do in the other screen, except in this case, it won't duplicate one exercise, it'll duplicate the whole exercise set. So for example, let's say that I have this ankle sprain week 1, but I have another patient who has a slightly more specialized need. I can click duplicate. It's going to create a duplicate of the exercise set. We see now that both of them are opened. Here's the new one, SD modified copy, and maybe we want to throw the name special on the end or whatever it might be. Obviously you're going to come up with something more appropriate. We click rename, and I can now make further changes. Let's say that I remove the heel toe raise. If I come over here, we still see heel toe raise on here, but we don't here. So I click save, and this will happen on both of these. The first time I click save, it's going to ask me, do you want to save this as a template or to a client? If this is going to be an exercise set that you're going to use again, you're going to want to do save as template. When I click that, it shows me where I want to save it, or it asks me where I want to save it. Do I want to save it to my folders? Again, this is related to the templates manager up top, which we'll see in another video, but do I want only myself to see this, or do I want everybody at the clinic to see this? Let's say I want everybody at the clinic to see this, then I save. That is now available there. We'll see that again later in another video. This one, same thing. If I click save, I get that same prompt. Now, if I was to click to client, what that's suggesting is I'm not going to use this exercise set again later. I'm only using it for a very specific client. If I click this, I can either choose a specific client, or I can create a new client if this is a brand new person you've never seen before. So we don't have to have that client created in the system before you start creating stuff for them. So I click this, and in here, I do last name, first name, email, and birth date. Now, the email and birth date you only actually have to put in if you're going to be emailing them their exercises for access through the patient portal, which we'll get into in another video. So if I was to clear these fields out, I would be able to save. But if I have anything in the email, I have to put in a portal key. That portal key we recommend as a 4-digit number, and we recommend the year of birth. That way it's easy for the patient to remember and easy for you to access as well if needed. So we click save. I already have one in here like this, so I'm just going to click close. Now, just to show you how this works, if I click this, Mary Brandybuck has some other exercises in place, including custom SD ankle sprain week 1. As you can see, that's a favorite of mine to use when I'm doing samples. But if I click this, we now see that Mary Brandybuck is assigned ankle sprain week 1 SD modified. This exercise set will not show in the templates manager later. It will only show on Mary Brandybuck, where this one will show in the templates manager. That will make more sense later on. Something else to note, if I've assigned this to a client, that means that it is specific to that client, and any changes that I make will only reflect on that exercise set as assigned to that customer. So I can assign it. Let's say that I assigned this one. I do save as to client, and let's say I also save this to Mary. If I come in here and I start making more changes, let's say that I clear out a couple of these as well, the exercise set that I saved in the template manager will still show those other 2 exercises, but the one on Mary Brandybuck will only show these ones here. Something else that's useful to note, when you've got 2 things open, if I minimize this, again, I can always bring that back with the same arrow, but if I minimize this, I can actually start to rebuild this if I want. Let's say that I accidentally removed the ankle inversion or ankle eversion isometric. I can drag this back over and I can put that back in here. You notice it still stays on here. So you do have that option. You can have a couple of exercise sets open and you can start doing further modifications. Now, one final thing I want to show you, and I'm going to close this just so that we're not crowding the space too much. We'll open this back up so it looks a little bit more like what you would want. Parameters is something you can do to assign information to other items, or to the exercise sets, I should say. So if I click on the RX here, we've got our parameters. We already have one saved parameter here, but let's say that I do 3 sets of 5 reps. If I click save, that's going to save another parameter tag here. And from here, I can add as many of these as I want, filling in as many of these as I want, and it will populate up here when I click save. Now, let's say, for example, I don't like some of these. So I can actually click and drop. We now see that this has 2 sets of 3. That's may not be appropriate, but just to illustrate. The other thing that I want to show you is if I check off a few of these and I do this, we notice that it took that on all 3 of these. I could also do apply to selected as well. That will apply whatever I've entered in here. So if I do this, we see now it's 3 sets of 5. But again, if I wanted, I could also click on this and then it applies that. That's your parameters. This shows you, we've now seen how to modify an existing exercise set. I do actually also have the ability to build a brand new exercise set from scratch. So let's get ourselves back to zero basically. So I'm in the designer, I'm looking at the simple set tab, I'm looking at my full list of exercises. What I can actually do is I can just start dragging and dropping. So shoulder ABCs, shoulder clock punches, shoulder external rotation, shoulder W band. I can drag as many as I want into here. I can then do all of the same things. I can put some education in. I can add some dividers. I can add a cover. You notice this one doesn't have a cover. As soon as I click that, we've got our cover title, cover instructions. Now, I do recommend that you either put a name right away, or as soon as you can think of a good descriptor for this. Simple shoulder exercises, we'll call it. This way, you're not just going to save it as untitled in the custom area, and then it'll be hard for you to find. So this way, we've got simple shoulder exercises. I can then pop that same information here, type some information here if I want, or if I chose not to add the cover, of course, this wouldn't be here. I can then also make any changes I want, including coming up here, and if I hold Shift and click on the bottom one, that highlighted all 4. I can then do, I want 2 reps of 3 for all of them. If I click down in the area out here, it deselects everything. So that is how you can create a completely custom exercise. Then when I click save, I get the same as template or 2 client options. Do with that as you will. I'm going to cancel out of here without saving that. The only other thing we really need to take a look at here, I suppose, would be the open client. If I click open client, I can choose one of my existing clients. We'll go to Mary Brandybuck, who we saw earlier, and we've got our ankle sprain week 1 SD modified special or SD modified. These are the 2 that we created earlier in the video. If I click on this, it's going to open that up. We see that it's for Mary Brandybuck. Again, I can make some further changes if I want, or if I'm ready to go, what I can do is I can choose to send. If I click send, this is going to send an email to this email address that has this subject, this body, this signature, and a link that cannot be modified that the user will be able to click to access the patient portal. Now, you do have the ability to change the subject, the body, and the signature. This is using the default email template. If I click on this, it takes me over under my name to settings and into the email. So I can make changes here that are permanent changes, but for the most part, we don't want to do that, and we can look at that in a later video. I'm going to click send again. If I click save and send, that email has now been sent to shane@simpleset.net. I'm going to show you that pretty quick here, but we can also click print. When we click print, we have the ability to choose what we're going to be sending to the printer. We've got some options. As I click these, it builds up, as you see in the right hand window there, or of course shrinks down depending on what I choose to select or deselect. Recipe cards is a popular one, especially if you've got people that just want very simple information here. It just gives you a picture, the name, and of course the instructions, whatever you've input. I have the ability to change the size. This is very useful if you have, let's say, someone with some vision difficulties or something to that effect. And then what I typically recommend is for people to play with this, see what the options look like. You can always export it to PDF. You don't have to waste any paper. If you export to PDF, you can see what it looks like. That gives you the ability to find your best fit. We have the ability also to have some custom headers. These headers will show at the top of an exercise and or in the email that's sent to the client. We'll see that when I bring up the email. But one thing to note is you can add multiple headers. So right now we've got these 2. I could add another one, and it's pretty generic. Line 1, 2, 3, footer. The footer is only shown in printouts. It's not shown elsewhere. So if you've got multiple clinicians, each clinician could have their own header. So you could have, clinician one with their email address and phone number, or clinic name dash clinician, whatever you want. As long as you put it in here, then they will have the option to select that. So from there, if I click print, of course a print dialog comes up and I can choose to send it out, or if I click export, then it's going to export to PDF. If I click this, it's going to save to my local machine, and I can then go access that. But with that in mind, what I wanted to show you is the email that came in. So we see your exercise program is ready. We see the header includes the image, sample clinic, and then the 5s and so forth. Hi Mary, your new exercise program is ready. Click here to view your exercise program. If I click this, it opens into the patient portal. We're going to look at that in another video. That is a deep dive into the designer window. I'm sure there's things in there that I have missed, so this video may get an update at a later date, but that is a fairly exhaustive view of what to expect with the designer window. If you ever have any questions, don't hesitate to email support@simpleset.net, and we would be more than happy to answer your questions. Thank you for your time. Have a good day.